Let's have some fun with photographs and 2D textures in Fusion and create a little 2D animation from this photograph, and the result will look something like this. This will only be photo manipulation, no particle effects. I don't need to go into 3D space, but I do show you a few tricks how you can make textures in a tileable way and do a few animation tricks on the way. These photos were originally part of my DaVinci Resolve mini contest, which is now over. Nonetheless, I'll put a download link under this tutorial so you can download these photographs and work along with me. Enjoy the tutorial. Let's dive in. Starting from the photograph, I head over into Fusion. So I have the photograph in original media resolution. So this is the sheep photograph, and I directly bring in my eyes as well, my second photograph. And I don't want to necessarily work on this high resolution, so I will create myself a background with the timeline resolution, so disabling auto resolution, which is the original media resolution, then 1920 by 1080, the timeline resolution, and I can make this background transparent and merge over the sheep and send them to media out. Now they are obviously much larger, so I need to scale this down a lot, but I also do want to crop in a bit. I want to position them like this. So there are my two sheep as I want them to be sent out. However, I don't want these bright flashes here, and I want some interesting sky, which I have in the original image, right? So let me do the following. I will bring in interesting sky and extract the sheep. To extract them, I can use a Luma key because they're so dark. It's very easy to extract them. Let me shift spacebar Luma key, bring in a Luma key, and I need to invert this to keep the black, make it solid black, and then clear out the sky. And I might add a brightness and contrast to get rid of the remaining red, and perhaps also bring the lift a bit down. And if I do this, usually I also clip the black, just so that you don't accidentally go negative if you go too far down. So this way they're just clipped off at 0. Now maybe you don't want to be that aggressive anyways because of the edges, but this should be fine and safe that way. Now I do want to have the other sky behind, so let me add a merge node here and merge the same image over. And now I can position the sky the way I want it. This is fine. However, if you want it a bit more interesting, you can also animate the clouds a little bit and bring in a tool called Corner Positioner. If you are not aware, Corner Positioner, let me bring it into the flow here. Shift to move nodes in and out. Corner Positioner, if you're not aware, this can be nicely used to animate clouds. Let me first show you just in one viewer what the tool itself does by bringing in the corner positioner itself. That's maybe even easier. So I just position the corners slightly outside the image, and especially here left and right. So now it's just zooming in. It's not doing more than that. It's just zooming in. But now if I animate the top corners and just animate these two, top left and top right, over the timeline and move them a little bit to the right, like top right and top left, then you can see we get some cloud movement like this. So let me actually leave it here for the cloud movement. I also want to color correct this. Let me do it on the lower resolution after the merge. So for any other effects that I might want to do now, let me bring in a color corrector and bring the hue, like make this a bit bluish and darker. Really dramatic, right? And then put the lightning between the background and the sheep. So in between here, I want to bring the lightning so that they're in the background, but in front of the clouds. I should make some space here, and I will bring this far up so that my lines are not crossing, right? So I have have some space here in between. I will merge in the ice here. Let me show you step by step. So first, let me just bring in a simple merge and see what's happening. If I bring the ice in, well, it's covering up the background, but I will actually screen this like this. So then the background is still visible. And depending on how I do this, I can bring the blend down. You know, it's kind of getting in the direction that I want to. However, I might want to take like individual bits of lightning in different places across the timeline and cut out like individual pieces here and position them individually. And to do this, I will copy my background here and first of all create the lightning over a transparent background, and then afterwards merge it in or screen it in. And the reason I do this is then I have one background which just has the lightning. So if I want to do any processing additionally on the lightning, I can do that just on this separately without having it directly combined with the image. So I can later say, okay, all the lightning should be a bit brighter or darker or whatever effect I might want to add. That's the reason. So I merge it over a background and then bring this in with a screen. And this in this background, with this merge, I can also rotate things around. But instead of doing this with the entire image, let me first create a mask. So let me look at the ice image alone. And this is the huge image. From this, I take a small piece. Let's say I take like this part here. So I will create a polygon mask. Let me not directly attach it, but create it separately first. And mask off something like this. And I can attach the mask here, give it a bit of a soft edge so it's not obvious. That's probably a good start. Now let me check again how this looks like in the final image. This is the final image. And I can use now this merge node here to position it and rotate it and scale it down however I need this. Let me check again, this is on screen. But you know, now for a start, let me just leave it like this. I will, however, not attach the mask the way I have done now, because I will create multiple masks, and in different places I will extract different pieces of lightning and transform them in different ways. So rather than masking it off here, I will mask afterwards, but before the merge, because in the merge I'm already resizing and rotating. So I will first mask and then afterwards resize and rotate. A quick way to do that is with the matte control, where you can attach the mask as a garbage mask. I hold down Alt to get the selection and connect it to the garbage mask. And then I need to invert it because the garbage mask is selecting what I don't want. So I'm selecting everything except what I want to keep. So with this setup, I have my lightning over a transparent background in the correct position, and then afterwards I'll do it side by side. Afterwards I have it combined like this. I can use the merge to animate it. Let me go to some frame in the timeline, bring the blend down to 0, keyframe, 1 frame forward, blend to 1, maybe 2-3 frames where I want to see it, another keyframe, and 1 more frame forward and blend to 0. So like 4 keyframes to go from 0 to 1 and back down to 0. This is my animation. Now I do want more than one piece of lightning, and I'm not going to do this like 10 times. I just quickly tell you how I can update this and copy in an efficient way. So in this case, I kind of want to do the same thing here multiple times. So I will copy these 3 nodes and just paste them a second time, and with Shift bring them in. That works with multiple nodes at the same time, as you can see. This polygon is now not correct, so I will just mark the entire polygon, delete it, and have a look at the ice image again on the left viewer. And after deleting the polygon points, I can draw a new one. So I can directly draw one, for example, here. All the other settings remain. And now in the merge, I can see where is it. I don't even see it because I didn't connect it. And now let me connect it. It needs to be connected to the foreground, of course. So this is my extraction, and in the merge I can position this. Let me actually reset the center and the angle and start from scratch. Then it's up there. And this one I will also scale down even more, and let me rotate it actually like almost 180 degrees, maybe, onto the sheep. Now it shouldn't appear in the same position because I copied the merge, I also copied the keyframes, but I can go into the keyframe editor. In the options here, show only selected tools, which is the current merge, and here zoom to fit. And now if I expand this, I see here the keyframes, and if I select the other merge, you see the keyframes from the other merge. If I select both, I can see them at the same time. And here in the keyframe editor, you can also select individual parameters by selecting the entire line, and then you can move all the keyframes around just by dragging. That's convenient to quickly retime something like this. So I might have at the end 5 or 10 copies, and I'll just quickly retime the keyframes by moving them around like this. And now I have first this lightning flash, and then the other one is coming here a bit later. And while both are selected, even in the timeline, you can see all the keyframes from all the selected tools. Okay, quick tip around keyframes. The lightning still doesn't look entirely convincing, I think. So I might actually manipulate this image a little bit so that the lightning looks better. And I might add a soft glow, which is always nice for glowy electric stuff. And I'll show you how it looks on the entire image. And if you bring the threshold up, you can make it like a tight glow. Another fun thing here, you can also change the color. So if you want the glow to be in a different color, I can, for example, push a bit of red and green in there, which should make it a bit yellow, maybe reduce blue a bit in the glow. So this only impacts the glow. So now I have a bit of a yellow glow, maybe too much. Perhaps this looks better. If not, then choose your own settings. And one last thing that I want to do is when I am bringing in those lightning effects, I do want the background sky to light up as well. Let me show you how I can do this, and then you also see why I put the lightning first on an individual frame before merging it over. Let's use another soft glow on the background, or you can use a brightness and contrast or something like this. I use the soft glow, bring up the threshold and maybe reduce it a bit so that those clouds here, the bright parts, that they start glowing a bit, and I want them to glow a bit whenever there's lightning, like to go with the lightning. So I will animate the blend, and I will use a modifier, modify with specifically a probe modifier. So a probe modifier probes a different image, and depending on what's happening in that image, it will give a different answer for that blend parameter. Under the modifiers tab, I can say which image to probe, which in this case, I just use this merge node. You can just drag it in. You will see it dragging like in the node graph, then you won't see it, but keep dragging and then release here, and it will appear here, even though I didn't see it in between. So it's probing this image, and I will probe the luminance and use a probe rectangle, which I set to 1. So I'm probing the entire image. Let's set this one here to maximum. This will read the luminance from the entire image and take the maximum luminance it can find in the image, which is probably like white 1. And when there's nothing, no flash, then it is 0 because there's nothing in the image. So this probe rectangle determines if there's something in the image, the way I've set it. And if there is something, like here, you see my probe modifier turns on the soft glow with blend 1. And if there's nothing, it's turned off. So this way, whenever there's a flash, I have a bit of glow on the clouds in the background. And here you see the result. Last thing I want to add is some rain. And here comes a bit of texture tiling and texture manipulation into place. I want to use the same ice image for the rain, and this time, just for simplicity, let me just copy it. Normally I don't do that, but it'll be a bit easier here in the flow to see if I go into a blank area and and work only on this image. And what I want to do is I want to take a part of that image, and I think I'll just use like this area, stretch it, transform it in some ways to make some structure that looks a bit like rain. Now, obviously in a stylized way, not like real rain, right? But to get that idea. Start with a transform, and I will decouple this and make it really, really large. First in both. Let me move around to get to that place. And then I will stretch it in X direction. And I'm holding down Alt or Option while dragging. As long as the center parameter is the active parameter in the viewer, even if it's over here, you can move it around when you hold down Alt or Option. So the active parameter, which is the red one, I can move it around like this. Let's go here, maybe even more. That's a good start. I will add another transform afterwards. And in this transform, I'm scaling it down, which seems useless, until I tell you what to do with the edges. And with the edges, I say, if you just keep it on canvas, it will reveal again what is coming from before. But if you set this to mirror, it will not reveal it, but instead mirror it. And if I set this to half, like 0.5, then we have a tileable image. So I'm mirroring the edge. And if you think about this edge is now 50% towards the center, same as this edge. And that means that this edge should fit together with this edge, and this edge should fit together with this edge. Not super important unless you do further manipulations and might further tile it later, like zoom out further with this mirror trick. So you can avoid that at the end it looks like repetition, or you can avoid hard edges in a way. So you see here from the mirroring, you see here hard edges here in the middle. But if you want, you can fix them. So let me go to frame 0, put in a paint node, set it to clone, and fix some of those edges. Let me make the brush larger by control dragging while the paint node is in the viewer. Then I'm cloning a bit here over with a soft brush, and I can hide those. I can hide some of those repetitive elements, right? Where it looks too obvious what's going on. I can hide those parts here just by cloning from a different area. And I'm trying not to do anything on the edges because they should fit. So after this, again a transform node, again set to mirror. And if I bring this down, I should not see, well, I mean, sure, there is still some repetition, but it should be relatively smooth. Now, it's not a perfect texture, of course, and there's still a clear repeating pattern, especially if you repeat it that often. Nonetheless, let's give this one a try. Let me not repeat it that often, actually. Yeah, maybe I will give this still a try. Maybe let me try again to squeeze it even a bit more. Maybe that's, yeah, I think I'll go more into this direction. And we'll see how the effect is once I merge it over. So let's merge this over the sheep. And turn it, of course. 90 or minus 90, doesn't matter. And screen it. So on a still image, that doesn't look so good. But let me reduce the blend a bit, perhaps like this. And then give it some movement. And I will just get the movement by taking the merge node, animating the center, and let's say over 10 frames, I will move this a bit down. And then I will do the following. I will go into the spline editor, choose the selected tool. Where is it? Displacement here. And I will right-click and do a gradient extrapolation, which just means continue after the last keyframe in the same direction. So it will continue. So I have only set one keyframe here at frame 10, or 0 and 10, but it will continue. And no matter where in the timeline I look, I see the animation. It's getting a bit slow for me because I worked on the original resolution. You know, I should probably have scaled this entire thing down a little bit to have a bit better performance. It's a bit oversized, the texture. And also here I set it to mirror again so that I'm never running out of texture. So no matter where in the timeline, I always get this rain. One last thought, this paint node is probably not working because I painted, how did I paint? I painted with the multi-stroke. So by default, this is only working on one frame. Yeah, so I only painted on frame 0, which may also be the reason why it didn't look so good. Yeah, it looks frame 0, frame 1. Yeah, so let's use this only on frame 0. And to do that, I will just bring in a time stretcher, time speed, whatever, time speed, and set the speed to 0. So this node sets the speed to 0 and delay 0, meaning I get frame 0 all over the timeline. Now I should have probably reduced the resolution before the paint because the performance isn't very good, and there was no need for this huge resolution for this blurry rain, so should have scaled the image down. Anyhow, I leave it like this for now. I'll just have to cache a few frames, and then you see this is like my current intermediate solution with a bit slow playback, but it's fine. I can fix that. To tune this a bit further, I would do more color corrections, add more lightning flashes, yeah, do some other 2D manipulations. If you want, you could add multiple layers of rain, like with different speed to get some depth into it. Bring some camera movement just by zooming in or out. If you want, you can put it into 3D, put it on 3D image planes, and then do 3D camera movement. Since there isn't so much three-dimensional going on in that image, I think the effect is not that big for this image, but that's another thing how you could take this further if you want to. But I think from a photo manipulation, texture manipulation idea, this is pretty much what I wanted to show in this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and thanks to Sebastian Worm, who is the photographer who provided those pictures. And I hope you got some good insights out of this. As always, if you struggled at any step, let me know in the comments, let me know what you need next, and see you in another tutorial. Cheers!